We're a company and a venture capital firm that invests in companies run by women and minorities, particularly when they're away from the coasts. I'm very, very focused on the Midwest. You are watching live the first pitch competition on Twitch, where you, the viewer, have an opportunity to vote for companies you like best.
So every episode, we have 3 judges, plus you, the audience. You also get to judge each pitch. After each presentation, you'll see a cute little box pop up with a Twitter link for you to vote for if you would invest in the company yourselves.
During round 1, we watched as the startups presented their pitch deck in 5 minutes or less. Then the judges began their Q&A. After we selected viewer-submitted questions for the founders to answer, in the end, the audience and judges had the opportunity to vote in the poll below for the company they like best.
Candice, do you mind if we start?
Oh, sure. Sorry. I still love the intro.
Looks amazing.
It's still fantastic.
And that little like twitching Lightship
That's
Capital
new
at the
thing,
end.
right? Isn't that new?
Wow.
I think it gives a little bit of a fade out, though. It's a little abrupt at the end.
Okay, Raquel takes notes. I love it. I wonder, does she watch this? Anybody know?
She probably doesn't even watch.
She does. She does. Sometimes she doesn't watch live, but she generally
later.
the next day.
Got it. Got it.
You guys like the shirt I chose to wear today?
What was that?
Like the shirt I chose to wear today?
Nope. Still bad. Still bad. Just as hypnotic as the first shirt.
What am I going to do?
You know, you're not going to do anything, but we now know that patterns don't show up well here on StreamYard.
I had a star one. It was way too stars and stripish.
Yeah. Yeah. Not great. Okay, so since we're backstage, wanted to talk about the following. So, you know, like we all say something different here on the show. Like Brian says, talk behind your back. Everybody kind of like Alexia's got her whole thing, right? Like, or you, the viewer, like she does that. Like, Lexi, I saw your note today and you were on Twitter and you made a reference to Hamilton. Was that you? She's like, I don't know. Was that me or the person that controls my Twitter?
No, it was definitely me. 100%. It's a big day in the Hamilton community.
Is it?
It's the 5-year anniversary of
today?
its first year of Hamilton. Today is, yeah.
Ah, okay. I had no idea.
What happened?
I had no idea. But I was wondering if maybe your line could start being like, talk less, smile more.
We'll think about it.
And tell them, like, because there's so many people the other day, and I'm not going to say who, there was one of the contestants was talking, and I was just like, that song was playing in my head.
Maybe. I philosophically disagree with the origins of that statement, but in practice on the show, it is 100% applicable. Just be concise, quick, and let's move on.
So you're saying that the historical accuracy of that particular musical is just not there.
Well, no, I think
the context of the song.
The context of that, yeah, of what they're who they're going to and why. Right.
Yeah, like I think that if you're interested in politics, you should say what you want when you want, no matter the potential consequences going forward.
Got it. But you are saying it's accurate.
Does anybody here sing? Anybody have any kind of skills they're gonna? Really?
Wow.
I feel like we need to have a little variety backstage one day.
Not today.
Today.
Brian's always
sing,
right? Brian, do you sing?
I do. Not well.
Oh.
Oh, my man
Alejandro.
What's up, Alejandro? Shout out.
I love it.
You can tell how cool he is from the picture alone. He's like that in real life. Scarf all day. I see this guy wear smooth scarves in Miami, July. Like, what?
Well, I can't see his whole profile picture, but from here, it has very much like a Guy Fieri vibe. So I can't really tell.
Like a Latin Guy Fieri, maybe.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So
right. Shall we?
I'm sure Marlon is well over us at this point. He's like, can't you guys just get in here and do this show?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So who starts?
Who starts? Like you don't know.
I'm joking. It was a joke. Jesus Christ.
Okay. All right. Well, let's go ahead and get started. Hello, gorgeous people in the audience. Welcome to TwitchPitch, the very first live stream pitch competition on Twitch, where you, the viewer, get to vote for your companies, the companies that you like the best. Are you new to TwitchPitch? Well, let's review. Well, during round one, each startup will present their pitch deck in 5 minutes or less. The judges will Q&A afterwards. Then we'll select a couple viewer-submitted questions for the founders to answer and comment on. Then the audience will vote in the poll below for the company they like the best. The most simple way to determine which company you like the best is to just simply ask yourself, would I invest in this company? 12 companies are going to pitch this season, but only three with the most votes will be considered for the grand prize. Then out of that three will come the chosen one. And guess what? The tiebreaker is the audience vote. The companies are competing for a grand prize of $10,000 in cash, big money. Your judges are from the team at Lightship Capital. Alexis is an investor at Lightship and a health tech enthusiast. Brian's a partner at Lightship and an expert in AI and machine learning. Candice is the founder of Hillman Accelerator, general partner at Lightship, and an expert in all things CPG and e-commerce. And I'm your host. My name is Alexis Archery. I'm a BSMD student at the University of Cincinnati, and I'm an aspiring venture capitalist. It's a pretty interesting mix. Today, we have a very special return guest. Give it up for Hadiyah Mujihid.
She's back.
Hadiyah is the founder and CEO of HBCUvc, a nonprofit organization that educates and trains Black and Latinx populations in technology, entrepreneurship, and venture capital to create racially equitable economies. This organization runs a fellowship at Black and Hispanic universities, where fellows activate their campus ecosystems by hosting entrepreneurial events and providing access to capital. HBCUvc is a Kauffman Inclusion Open Grant recipient. Previously, Hadiyah co-founded nonprofit Black Founders, where she created the first hackathon program for Black colleges and led a national conference tour for our Black tech entrepreneurs. Very, very awesome woman. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. Yeah.
My multitasking is not working well today. I'm also trying to say, thanks for coming, Hadiyah, here on Twitter, but I need to do it fast enough.
Well, tonight we have Whisker and Paw and Thurst. Whisker and Paw will be going up first.
All right, let's see it.
Hi there. We're super excited to share with you today Via, a creation by Whisker and Paw. Creating a great future for our pet healthcare industry leaders, we'd love to share with you what our initiatives are around seed and Series A funding rounds. For starters, let's hear a note from our founder.
Hi, I'm Patricia, and I'm the founder of Whisker and Paw. We've developed a unique patient information management system that works with Google Assistant. Many people think that patient information management systems are all the same, but with our unique design, you superpower your clinic so that you can automate soap notes, track and take better records of your pets, and to create a recommendation engine that helps you get to diagnosis much faster. Via was born from several painful visits to the veterinarian with my crazy Shiba Inu, Taki. With a troubled past, Taki currently exhibits a lot of aggression while seeing any stranger, let alone a veterinarian, making any kind of office clinic visit very stressful and pretty much a nightmare. I thought about building this product because I needed something that could get me in and out in no time. With Via, I'm able to make sure that Taki has a quicker and safer visit for everyone.
Now that we know a little bit about Whisker and Paw, let's cover the basics. Born in Los Angeles, California in 2018, we began bootstrapping and being able to really understand our market. In 2019, we officially launched with our betas, and we were able to partner with veterinarians and other industry leaders that could help us create a really amazing product. Having formal training as a consultant in the industry, running discovery sessions are the bread and butter of how you create products. Many of these systems are legacy systems, and healthcare providers in the human sector, as well as veterinarians, experience that same troubling concept of being able to take their notes more innovatively and to be able to do it in real time with baked-in routines, automations, and things that could help them remove all the redundancies. Because these systems don't exist, many physicians experience this burnout. Stanford Medicine did a very special use case around this to better identify. And on top of that, we layered in and we better understood what veterinarians felt as related to our human healthcare providers. Our solution was to actually provide veterinarians with the very systems that were missing. So we created a smart whiteboard. We created a way to automate their clinical notes so they don't have to stay after hours. And we used a smart differential diagnosis system that's powered by Google Assistant that could help recommend pathways to get treatment in faster time. So how does it work? Our whiteboard was designed to be front and center for our clinics. They're able to use this to better understand their schedules, their patient flow, get better ideas of smart tags that enable them to better understand who's coming in for what. Do they have aggressive issues? Are there other things that pertain to their health that they need to be aware of? All the while, the doctors get access to a voice-activated SOAP note portal that helps them record notes by voice. You can actually take everything from chief complaint, map it to a set of diagnosis, potential diagnosis, and then your rule-outs to test those diagnoses with proper diagnostic so that you can arrive to a treatment plan that makes sense for that pet. Veterinarians are not the only one who get the benefit. Our pet parents get access to VIA through an at-home app that enables them to see in real time all of their clinical notes, things that are being updated, status reports. They get access to an AI-powered pet bot advisor that can answer routine questions, help set up new visits, things that they need to just make their life easier. So how much does it cost? Our plan values are simple. We have one set up for our clinics and one set up for our pet parents. They average between $199 and $399, but it really just depends on volume. All the features we mentioned are all included. For our pet parents, it's a simple $39.99 access where they can get access to free wellness exams, all of the features I mentioned earlier. And I shared some additional info here so you can kind of see cost comparisons on what a plan like this would be valued at or compared to other, similar facets in the industry. The pet industry alone has an addressable market share of about $63 billion across all consumer behavior. Of that, veterinarians occupy about $18 billion of that. This market is growing on average 5% year over year, and Ben Jacobs, head of ventures over at Mars Pet Care, understands that there's continued innovation and investment and interest from investors all over the different markets to kind of get these technologies in place. Whisker and Paw really wants to attract 30% of that market share, which would roughly be about $5.4 billion. So what do we need for us to be able to scale and appropriately be able to hit our revenue numbers? We will need about $3 million to assist us majority with making sure that we maintain all of our license, our product development, bug fixes, but largely a lot of our personnel expenses, as you can see here. We'd like to hire industry professionals in sales, marketing. We want to get a couple customer success team members to get on board to help with onboarding and support issues for our customers, those items. You can see that there's a long-term inflection point here on what we can do. And these are our four revenue streams that we really think are going to be valuable. Here we'd like to share our projected revenue summary for the next 3 years. Now, important things to note is that these revenue summaries are based on a 10% clinic adoption and a 0.01% for pet parents, with a year-over-year growth of 5%. As you can see, those numbers are growing across the first 3 years. We have a full pro forma available for a 5-year runway. We'd love to share that with you upon request. However, the main goal here is just to look at these projections and these numbers. In our first year, we can hit almost $8 million in revenue, which means that we would be able to pay back the $3 million that we're asking for in our initial rounds, as well as gain more traction to continuously put money back into our product and to be able to expand in year 2 and 3. So our goal really is to have that main person in our sales and marketing be able to identify what are month-over-month KPIs that we need to focus on in order to hit these revenue numbers. We're hoping that by partnering with an innovative investment firm, we're able to lean not only on their expertise and their experience in the marketplace and scaling new products, but also be able to use that initial investment round to be able to really hit these targets. So we really appreciate your time, and we look forward to working with you.
All right. These videos are getting like so much.
Well, you can just say Patricia's coming. It might be one Patricia and it could be 2 Patricias.
Patricia's coming.
Patricia's
These videos are like so sophisticated now.
They really are at this point. And Patricia
Hi.
might be coming. Ah, yes.
How's everyone doing?
Hi there.
Good.
Good.
Pretty
Thank
good.
you. I'm happy to be here tonight.
Who wants to go first? I guess I am. Okay. So are you guys pre-product?
Yes, ma'am. We're actually launching our MVP and we're in beta right now. So we have 3 beta partners in Southern California.
Okay.
So we're working directly with them. Pre-product meaning that the MVP is available, but there are some routine features and key things that we want to launch in the market before we actually hit the market and go directly towards sales.
So tell me what you're learning from the beta.
So the beta is helping us really understand our KPIs and where we need to improve. Additionally, workflows are super important in this field, especially since we're working with our clinical advisory team, which are veterinarians, hospital administrators, technicians, pharmacists, people that can really help us engage and understand what those workflows are so that we can kind of iterate the product, change features, move things around so that it can actually function the way that it should function in a veterinary clinic.
So you talked a little bit about legacy systems that are already there, but what other competition is there in the market right now?
Yeah, so the big competitions in the market, a lot of folks are actually leaning on some automatable features. Some of them do the autocomplete, which you see in Gmail when you're typing an email. Others are actually leaning more on specific things around diagnostics. So a lot of the leaders in that industry will be your big brands that either are Zoetis, which was formerly a Pfizer division. So they broke off and they actually did veterinary medicine. They're doing a lot of different diagnostic machine learning type things where they're better understanding production animals. In the companion animal space, we have a few competitors that are actually launching clinical note features, but none of them have the same whiteboard features, the actual automation, voice dictation, and then of course that automated soap model that is actually patent pending and also automating the entire diagnosis process.
Okay.
So you
Go ahead.
You mentioned the soap. You keep saying soap. What's soap here?
That's a great question. I do that often, and I'm so sorry. So SOAP is actually the clinical methodology that veterinarians and human healthcare providers, that's how they're taught while they're in school. It stands for subjective, objective assessment and plan. And that's essentially when an animal comes into the clinic, the subjective piece is really the symptomatic routine stuff that you're collecting to better understand what that animal is experiencing. And then when you're going through the objective piece, you're actually going through the exam, you do the physical exam there, you add additional findings. Assessment, you're doing your rule out. So you're looking at all your possible diagnosis, you're running tests, whether it's imaging, blood lab, anything like that. And then your plan will be your treatment plan based on what that diagnosis is.
I've got a couple questions if that's all right.
Okay.
So it seems like voice is an important part of the product, which I think makes perfect sense. But can you tell us more about why you chose that modality and why you're kind of doubling down on voice?
Yeah, absolutely. So in a clinic, a lot of the times when you're working with animals, most of the time, you have to be very physical and hands-on. It's hard to write your notes and then be able to transfer those into the computer because it is a very physical thing. So with our modality, we've been able to actually use a blended technique where veterinarians are able to type if they'd like to, or they can utilize the voice features so that they can actively take notes. When the AI is making suggestions, there's actually baked in pre-text that any veterinarian can customize based on what they need, but we've already jam-packed it with all of the cool text that is very common in the field so that it can kind of auto-complete those notes for them so they're not going back and catching up on them. So with the two blended approaches, it gives them the ability to be able to utilize notes if they want to like type something up. We're working on a feature where we can convert, if they have an iPad and they want to use the pen, that'll convert that over into text, an actual text that they can read. But they can also use the voice dictation, which makes it super simple, especially if they're working in equine health.
Love it. Love it.
Yeah.
Another question real quick about the round itself. You mentioned through a $3 million investment, and you mentioned kind of in that first year, if you do $8 million, you'd be able to pay it back. There's really two kinds of investors. One like us that wants to invest $3 million and keep it in and have some ownership of the company until you have some good thing happen, a sale, an IPO, you name it.
Yeah.
And there's the other kind who invests and is looking for a faster return, maybe put in $3 million, get 4 back, or whatever the numbers. Can you tell me which of those you would prefer and why?
Yeah, so the last 3 weeks, I want to say, has been a very developmental process in terms of how we looked at financial modeling. When we submitted our TwitchPitch, kind of the actual presentation that you guys just saw, we were looking at our 5-year runway of like what we potentially would want. We've been told to take more snackable chunks, which is now more of our focus is now. So we're looking at an 18 to 24 month track, looking for about 500,000, and then being able to use that. We've actually cut our operational expenses by 50% so that it's roughly around 500,000, doubling down on, multitasking and being able to take on other roles that otherwise in our initial assessment, we were going to hire immediately for. So we really took that lean approach so that we can kind of do more snackable and then grow with that firm once we have proof of concept and we actually have sales and traction in the marketplace.
That's a darn good answer.
I know, I was thinking the same thing.
Thank you.
That's a darn good
answer. I
answer.
need your answer to really explain to the folks who are watching, particularly those that are investors. This is why you can't just get a snapshot of someone and assume that they're going to be just like that 2 months later, 3 months later, whatever, days later, right? Because really great founders are always growing, always learning, always changing. So you need to check in enough to understand where their mindset is at that time.
Absolutely. Yeah. Like not everyone is willing to be like, yeah, I changed my mind on that. Like some people are just not willing to do it. And they just they're so bullheaded. And so that's why you hear investors talk all the time, like, are they coachable? So someone coached you through that process, either your team and each other or one of your mentors. And so any way that it happened, good on you for taking the advice and kind of moving in a different direction that is more palatable to your traditional venture capitalist.
Absolutely. A lot of those learnings came from my participation in Startup Grind. It was an intensive where we went through, I've met with so many different investors from pre-seed to Series A and just looked at what they want, what they're looking for in the marketplace, what kind of smart investments are they trying to do, and how we can adapt to that.
Is there still time for me to have some questions? I have a lot of questions. So for your 3 beta partners now, what would you say is what is the main feature that they're really loving right now? What is appearing to be your core value proposition?
Yeah, so the whiteboard is the biggest piece. That does not exist anywhere in the marketplace right now. The whiteboard helps them with process flow. There's built-in alerts, dosage calculators based on weight. So we've really customized it to bake in those tools that will help them work faster. The SOAP portal as well, the diagnosis process that's automated, that's also built directly in there. So they're able to use that if there's surgeries or there's different types of patients that are coming in. They just love that feature, and that's what we're iterating over and over in beta. We're trying to get that feature right so that when we're ready to launch it, that's really going to be the one that stops a lot of conversations. If they're talking to multiple competitors, they don't have a whiteboard and we do. So we're pretty excited about that feature.
And just for clarification, is this just a software product that you're selling to the veterinarians, or is this a mix of software and hardware? Because it seems like there's some hardware requirements here.
No, absolutely. It's actually all cloud-based. We're using AWS as well as Google Dialogflow to manage the entire knowledge base. So everything's based in the cloud. And our pricing model as well, the rough pricing model that you saw in the presentation doesn't include implementation. It doesn't include data storage if it goes over a certain amount. Obviously, data storage, there's a certain amount that's included. And then after that, you charge based on what the rate is for that. So everything is cloud-based and available on an app.
So they just have like a laptop or any other
or an iPad,
any log from a laptop, and all the other features that you plan on implementing as well. There's no like hard, because you talked about voice activation. Like how's that? Like there seems like there's some hardware requirements there.
Yeah, so the voice activation is actually available through the mobile app. So they can actually download that on their smartphone or an iPad. So we made it extremely nimble. In the veterinary marketplace right now, they're not looking to buy new hardware. A lot of them made investments like that 10 years prior with some of the larger competitors, the legacy systems like Avamark, where there's literally a server sitting in each clinic and they had to purchase it outright. We wanted to make it very simple. If someone walked in with their iPhone, they could download the app, have it on there. We're fully HIPAA compliant as well, because in California, that's a requirement for veterinarians, and it works seamlessly with healthcare providers in the human healthcare space once we expand, which is the goal.
So one question related to kind of what you mentioned, the software side of the vet tech space kind of blew up a couple of years ago in a good way. There was a ton of activity happening on the M&A front. Why do you think that is? And do you still think there's a large appetite for some new players in the software space to get acquired by the, Henry Scheins of the world? And
I think a lot of the times when I will say millennials have actually shaped the pet parent population largely in the last few years. We've seen pet parent adoption and just, pet ownership increase exponentially. And because of that, demands have changed. So software, and whether it's cloud-based, whether it's something that you download to your system, all of those need to move with that demand. And I think that that's largely part of the reason why that big boom hit. There's a huge appetite for it right now. COVID-19 really kind of glossed the platter, if you will, where it really introduced telehealth in a new way that wasn't tangible in the veterinary field because physical exams are required. So with that, we've even included that in our pet parent app, the telehealth ability to be able to video vet, send pictures, do whatever you need to do, e-triage, collecting all that data up front to expedite those visits. That's going to be a demand that we see and an appetite that's going to be very much present in the next 5 years.
Great.
All right.
Okay.
So why don't we bring Alexia back? I don't know, do we have any audience questions? I didn't even look. No, excellent. So we'll just now talk behind your back all about your company. All right, it's gonna go well. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you so much. Everyone have a good night.
Thanks, Patricia. Bye-bye.
Talk about having all the answers.
Phew. And so early in the process.
She was good.
Right?
She really sold it to me, right? I had to ask her, is this real? Like those are the founders where you're like, wow, you sold me all of that. Like, what?
She's got a strong product vision.
She has a strong product vision. One thing I missed, and maybe Lexi, you know the answer to this. So she mentioned there's a $199 to $399 subscription for the veterinarian per vet user. Then I also heard her mention that it's $39 a month for pet parents. And there were some things that came with that. And it sounded like visits were kind of involved with that. Is this like a pseudo insurance plus portal for your pet?
I don't know about the insurance plus portal part. Patricia, feel free to type it in the chat. But there is definitely the insights that were seen in the diagnostic notes that the vets were getting the pet parent has access to that as well. So any of the diagnostic suggestions or any other comments they may have, they have access to that in the app. And then Patricia is saying now on the back end that they get 2 wellness exams, which is how they refer clients to vets.
Now, when she talked about that part, the first thing that I thought about when she talked about from the pet parent perspective, I thought about OneMedical for like pet parents, right? And I don't know if everyone has OneMedical. I know they're pretty big in California and New York. But it's just basically, I guess, a re-envision doctor office visit where you kind of have ownership of your health in your app. And so that's where I thought she was going, which I feel like is a total different play and an awesome play. But then there was a core focus on this patient management system, just behind the scenes and strictly veterinarian. And so I just didn't know. And I guess you can do both. And like you can have like a full vision for all of it. But I thought of OneMedical for pet parents.
All right.
Guys, I don't know if you know this, but like my question was very leading. The M&A landscape for this is so hot. Like,
this is a home run. Yeah, let me start there.
My previous firm, we sold a company called Vets First Choice to this pet and health conglomerate called Henry Schein. And when I tell you there's so much happening in this space, and even after that, they spun out and did some other really cool stuff. People are looking for vet tech on the software side aggressively right now. Apparently it's completely broken. Like the way that vets operate is still 10 years behind the way doctors operate, which is 10 years behind the way dentists operate in terms of tech. And they're looking for this.
Patricia's in the behind the scenes going, snap. Yes, yes, girl. I know. That's why I'm doing this.
Now, I didn't catch, what was her background? Like, did she come out of this industry? I think she mentioned that she was a pet owner, but what was the background? I didn't catch that.
You know, I'd be a bad witness to a crime, but I think that she said she consulted in this space.
Okay.
And I probably just made all that up, and she will correct us at some point. So
I think it's true.
Yeah.
She's an AI consultant, I think, before this.
Okay, there we go. All right, so she's an AI healthcare consultant. I don't know. I think, again, it's early for us, right? We've talked about investing in companies after they've seen some traction. And traction for us as a venture firm typically includes traction outside of your current region. So were you able to expand somewhere else, right? Like, can you expand beyond your current set of relationships? And so once we see that happen, that's when we really start to engage with groups. And so for me, early, but one to watch. Yeah, for sure.
All right. Should we go to the
Nobody else
next?
has opinion?
I feel like Brian's very quiet this episode.
You guys crushed it. I mean,
Can you change your shirt again?
I did.
This is 3 outfit changes.
This is a wardrobe change. Run INC right there.
Wow. Okay. Jeez.
But I'll agree with Candice. I think Patricia is kicking ass and taking names. And it may be even the dollar amount's a little too schmidgy small for us, but I'm down to track and see what's going on 6 months from now.
Did you say the dollar amount's too small? Now all of a sudden we got a fund and the dollar amount's too small.
Well, if she's raising $500,000 in total,
come a long way, boy.
Raising that is a, not to get into the particulars of it.
We're all for it.
Okay, I'm sorry. We're gonna run over, so I'm gonna stop running my mouth.
I said, let's go.
My bad.
Alexia, please come out here and save us.
All right, don't forget to click on the link in the page below to vote for Whiskers and Paws if this is the company you'd like to vote for. And up next we have Thurst. Excuse me. That's Marlon's fault. That's Marlon's fault.
Let's just blame it on him. Okay, I see you.
Hi, my name is Morgan Barmel, and I'm the CEO and founder of Thurst. Thurst is the first dating app for queer people. We're connecting queer people of all genders, and we're inclusive for the entire LGBTQI+ community by providing a simple, secure platform for our users. We were founded in 2016, so we launched our beta with 15,000 signups, which was mostly generated through social media and word of mouth. And we connected to folks across the world who were interested in what we were doing. We launched on Android and then on iOS in September 2018. The problem we're addressing is that most dating apps are exclusive of the LGBTQIA+ community, which means you can sign up and you can use the platform, but either you'll deal with extreme harassment or you'll be kicked off the platform based on your sexuality and or gender. Many online spaces don't allow queer people, especially trans and gender non-conforming folks, to elect their gender and interact with other people. So the LGBTQIA+ community is one of the most targeted and marginalized groups globally that is impacted by both social and government suppression, with the highest percent of discrimination and violence towards our communities, both online and offline. So we're a team of queer technologists and designers addressing a specific community problem. We're really trying to shift the way that folks connect online. So apart from just dating, but finding friends, we're trying to broaden the spaces that queer and trans folks have. And we realize that there's an opportunity here to really address the ways in which dating apps, but also social media in general, is very exclusive to folks of our community. So we are the first, but we're also aiming to be the most affirming and most inclusive by allowing folks to be their full selves on these platforms. And we're the first dating app for queer people, but also we're trying to include specifically and center trans and non-binary and agender folks. So we're working on security and safety features like specific safety protocols that pick out harassment before it happens and make sure that the onus is on us as designers and developers to prevent harm and work to make sure that our community actually is safe and rid of discrimination, violence, and harassment. We've proven the market need for our app several years ago through testing, betas, and getting feedback from various users. And now we're looking to focus on branding and team development. Why now? It's definitely an era of queer liberation, trans liberation, and a lot of folks are realizing that we don't have to live in these rigid boxes of gender and sexuality. From one study in 2016, US teens and millennials identified more as queer than straight, with 52% surveyed nationally. We're seeing that Gen Z is more gender-free than any other generation that's preceded them, with more folks electing to identify as a non-binary gender, which means outside of the male-female binary. That's a very colonial, rigid idea of thinking about gender. After success with gender inclusion options on our app, we began seeing this happen with other apps such as OkCupid and Tinder and other apps starting to include folks of other genders and create and design those options. And so gender inclusive platforms have become the standard for dating apps, and gender and sexuality inclusion have become the norm. We see the market validation with other apps that currently exist but are underserving our community. So OkCupid has between 200 and 250,000 users, which is a small amount compared to the number of queer and trans folk nationally. On the Her app, which is primarily for cis women who identify as lesbian, has roughly between 30 to 50,000 users. The amount of LGBTQ users on all these popular dating sites equal less than the queer and trans population in New York City alone, which means there are a lot of folks who aren't using these platforms and don't use platforms at all, such as dating apps, social media, etc. And so there are a lot of quotes about different platforms being exclusive, Tinder being the main one. And so we just see the market size. There are a lot of queer and trans folks nationally, but especially globally, that are being under-recognized and underserved on these platforms. In the US alone, there are 12 million self-identified queer people. And by self-identification, I mean these are the folks who have the ability and choose to elect themselves as queer or as part of the LGBTQI+ community, with the asterisk being that there are many folks who are either unable to name that they are, folks who are unable to come out, and there are also different cultural designations for what queer and trans means, and outside of the Western, very English-centric way of defining queer and trans, there are many folks who simply live their lives as queer people. And so our market adoption plan is very simple. We plan on leveraging all of the queer events, parties, and nonprofit spaces such as Pride, which happens globally, but started in New York, as well as all places that celebrate queerness, that have events that are queer and trans-centric. There are plenty of LGBTQ organizations, their festivals and events, gatherings, and conferences, as well as queer and trans celebrities who've reached out to us expressing interest on our growing platform and looking for spaces where they can be themselves and not face the discrimination that happens on other mainstream dating apps. Our competition are 3 main apps. Her, which is an app primarily for cis women who are lesbians, as well as trans women. They're exclusive to other folks of other genders and are primarily for people who are women. Tinder, after our launch, included 47 genders, but doesn't have a policy that is truly gender and sexuality inclusive. So you're able to be harassed without any consequence on the platform. And if you're trans, you're likely to be kicked off. For OkCupid, they are the most inclusive platform. They've been around for 10+ years. And so they allow folks of many genders and many sexualities to use the platform, but their primary function is to serve cis straight people. So the queer and trans folks on the platform are underserved and don't have policies on that app that accurately protect them and recognize them and their full personhood. We've received a lot of press, primarily because of the user interest and word of mouth that's been happening for the past few years, with queer folks being excited about what we're doing. So we've been in TechCrunch, USA Today, Huffington Post, Autostraddle, etc. And that's because we are really focused on serving the queer community. We're made all by queer and trans designers and queer writers who are interested in what we're doing. We truly are inclusive of all sexualities, genders, and other marginalized identities within the queer umbrella. We focus on security and anti-harassment and have policies and protocols in place to really back that up. And we have high brand recognition within the LGBTQIA+ community, despite other large competitors like Tinder and OkCupid. Thank you.
You're on mute.
I'm just so clapping here. Just let's bring on the team.
Hi, y'all.
Hey.
I'm great. How about y'all?
Hi, Morgan. How are you?
Good, good.
Awesome.
Pretty good.
I'm gonna go first this second because I'm like raring to go. One of the things I love about a good pitch is when I'm thinking through my questions and then those questions are answered, like boom, and then this one, boom, and it, like, you know, like I can't even get them out before you already answered the question. So safety, security, and harassment are things that immediately come to mind with a platform like this. Like, how do we eliminate and kind of continue to have a safe space for your users? It looks like you've done a lot of thinking in this area, but I'd love to hear even more about the work that's gone into that side. And I have a follow-up question around physical safety, around meetups and other even countries that are not as open as others.
So when we first launched, I will admit we were pretty naive. We were excited. We were like, okay, we have a beta, but we realized quickly that we didn't have the protocols in place to prevent basic harassment. So we had a lot of users who were saying, I am worried about my identity being connected to social media profiles or my LinkedIn account. I'm not out at work, etc. So we really started doing many smaller betas. So we broke it up and we started forming study groups where a lot of users were self-electing to say, I'm willing to help y'all the next year, providing feedback, testing any betas that we have, and submitting alternate situations or scenarios that might work for me. And we tried to interview users from different areas, different regions of the world, different abilities. So really centering folks who have disabilities or are visually or hearing impaired. So what does it mean to make an app that's truly accessible? So throughout our betas, we've really been questioning what does security and harassment mean? And then we're lucky because a lot of queer folks were super interested in our platform. We had a lot of researchers volunteer their services, a lot of lawyers volunteer their services to figure out what can we actually do around harassment and security, apart from our back end, which was several years of testing and failing really, and keeping pushing forward. So we believe in failing fast. Unfortunately, when you're dealing with people, that means that some folks might deal with unwanted discrimination or a buggy product. But we let a lot of folks know we're trying to really commit to this journey and push forward. So it's just been years and years of user feedback.
So where is the product right now? I know you launched a few years ago, and you've been working through things. Where is it now? How many users are on the platform currently?
Sure. After several iterations, we're live on the Android Play Store and on iOS. Right now, we have around 5,000 users. We started with 20,000. After our initial beta testing, we decided to shut down the platform in late 2018, just to revamp design and work on implementing some of the security changes that have been really helpful in reducing harassment from roughly 89% to now down to roughly 3 to 5%. So it's a big shift. So right now we have about 3,500 monthly users, and our churn is about 100 users per month.
And I may have missed this on the pitch. Are you charging people, or is this free currently?
So currently it's free. It's a freemium model. So we haven't quite reached a threshold where we would consider charging anyone anything.
There's really nothing else? Like, really?
I almost want there to be, right? you know,
like that's jacked up, right? Like,
because the market is so large, you know, it says a lot about people, and yeah.
I get so lost when I like hear about a company like this, and you go, "What do you mean? There's nothing? Everybody else random." I mean, like, there's dating for all sorts of things out there, right? Like, and things that aren't normal, right? So like, queer is normal, right? Like that's part of like the normal thing going on here, right? We've got people for farmers. So how do farmers get a dating app before the queer community, which is way more people? I don't know. Maybe that's me. And my team thinks I'm offensive as hell. So I'm sorry.
I don't know why we're throwing farmers under the bus. But
no, but why do farmers get an app for dating before the queer community? I don't understand that. Maybe that's just me. Whatever.
Because cis straight white men create apps for other cis straight white men.
I think that's the strength of this app that Morgan highlighted in their presentation. My question, Morgan, is how are you building the community?
So it started off, we got really lucky in the beginning with word of mouth. Obviously, we're not naive enough to believe that will continue, but it has been a lot of outreach. So we've had a lot of folks from the big four tech companies who are like, we're queer and we work here. How can we support y'all? So we've been really lucky because it seems like folks across industries are willing to help. We haven't really paid any large agencies or firms for that help, whether it be consulting, legal, marketing, branding, etc. We've just had a lot of folks reach out. So we're lucky in the beginning, but right now we really are focusing on branding because we need to expand pretty quickly.
So during COVID, we've seen Tinder basically skyrocket, Match.com popped. What have you been seeing on the app in terms of, are you seeing more users joining during COVID, or are you seeing more engagement? Kind of what other growth metrics have you seen recently as people miss seeing other people in person?
It's a bit of both. I mean, I think a lot of folks are just looking to connect. So we've seen more user signups than usual. So it's about double our normal user signups per month. And engagement is higher, where folks are sending more messages than they usually would, I think, just out of seeking connection. So we don't take that as an actual metric of ours. It's a little bit of metric with an asterisk for this pandemic, but it is becoming the new normal in which we're trying to adapt and implement new features over time because I don't see this quite ending anytime soon.
And in private, you told me something, and I just think it'd be interesting for everyone to hear. Tell me about your geographic reach. Where are you seeing kind of the biggest interest in the US right now? It was a surprise to me, but maybe not to everyone else.
Sure, I'm based in Brooklyn, so I initially thought that it would be Brooklyn, San Francisco, maybe LA, but we've actually been seeing from the past year that the majority of interest is from the South. So within the US, we find that the most conservative regions are seeking queer dating platforms, platforms for folks of all genders, folks for just spaces where folks can be themselves and express themselves without being either doxxed or coming out or having to reveal themselves on a larger platform. So we're finding a lot of folks are looking for discretion, they're looking for safety, they're looking for a space to kind of express themselves or explore what that could mean for them.
Yeah, I'm actually not surprised by that. I think it makes perfect sense. And another lesson another learning there is oftentimes founders have the problem themselves, so they're solving for themselves. And so they also assume that where I am is where everyone else is, right? And it just turns out it's not always that way. And not to draw a gay non-binary kind of parallel, but I will. We're invested in a company called Excited. It's a gay underwear brand based in Mexico City. They do really, really well in Catholic countries because it's like you can be yourself kind of under your clothing, and because you can't be yourself outside of it, it drives to go deeper when you're looking for a product that's really for you. And so I think you may be interested to find that your growth even globally starts to be in places that would be surprising.
Exactly. When we first
I bet you $5 that would see the biggest growth in MENA. 100%. Middle East North African community, that's 100% where you're going to see rapid
No, absolutely.
growth.
Yeah. Cool. Right after our first launch, that was the most popular region after a few months. So.
Okay, can I ask a question? And I don't know if it's appropriate for this pitch competition, but have you raised any capital yet?
We have, yes. We raised capital about 2 years ago. So we've been super bootstrapped, but have raised capital, just a modest amount, but enough to keep us going and help us redesigning.
Okay, got it. Alrighty.
Could you tell me about your team right now? Is it yourself? Is it like a CTO? How big is your team?
Right now we're just 3. I'm the only founder. And then we have one main designer and then someone who kind of handles or supports me with iOS. I mostly do Android and backend stuff. So, yeah.
Morgan, this has been really, really great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We're going to talk behind your back now. This is what we do. It's exciting. And then we'll see how it goes.
Cool. Bye now.
Thanks so much.
I mean, I'm all about it. So.
15,000 people pre-product on a wait list. Just please give it, that says a lot. And also all the free consulting and work, I think, that's gone into it. Because the why is so strong and people are like, hey, I'm a designer, let me design for you. Hey, I'm a lawyer, let me lend my talents. I think it says a lot about the product too.
I mean, it's obviously a problem and she's come up with the actual solution for it. And now you just really need to pour some gasoline on it to get it to go. It is a necessary product and it needs to actually be larger in the market. That's kind of it. Is she the right founder for it? I'm not certain, right? But I think that's something worth exploring. I see no problems here other than how do you expand it and how do you have cash to do it? That's it.
I think I have the same concern that Morgan brought up around brand awareness and growth. And that's what they have to really take off, because this isn't like a hard technical product, right? But they have the community. And if they're able to basically really lean on the features of safety, security, and harassment and growing this community, because there's a difference of you have the big names out there and they can repeat this and they can try to imitate it, but it wasn't designed for this community, and that's the biggest difference. And so I think Morgan knows what she's doing in terms of she knows that she has to grow that brand and that audience quickly with what they're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not by any means a social media expert. I've never actually done a deal in social media at all. But like Hadiyah mentioned, I think that building something where security and safety is the core of the product will be something that none of the big giants would ever even take the time to replicate. I don't think they would care enough really to build that in. They haven't done it yet. And I think that's really where Morgan and their team can differentiate themselves.
They're going to win purely on that. You would buy that company just around that level of IP, because your team will never be able to conquer that question in the same way. It feels very clear to me that there's some growth here.
But what do you think that Morgan really needs to own this market?
Marketing budget.
I'm gonna guess it's a budget, just based on the size of the team at this point. A few years later, I'm gonna guess that it's a budget, right? She's got 3,500 people on the platform, actively engaged per month. I'm going to assume it's a money thing. She just said in the chat, "Yup."
Yeah, money. Is there any doubt in anybody's mind here that if they had the same money that like Zuckerberg had in a restaurant, the Cuba Cafe kind of thing, this is what I want to do. Okay, here's 10 million. Is there any doubt with anybody on this call that this platform would already have, more than a million users? Whatever.
No doubt. I think Morgan talked about this. They built the platform. They're building the iOS. They are like, this is what investors dream of, like the technical in-house. Yeah. If Morgan was a white, straight, cis male, they would have all this money thrown at them, and it would be a different story.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that it's funny. Marlon in the background said, and if they had the same money as Quibi, they'd be real dope. I also think though her user would be willing to pay for a premium price for this product, right? They shouldn't have to, because the rest of us are out here using stuff for free. But for the safety and security of being yourself on platform, I think they would pay for it. And so there's probably a way for her to do that, but probably feels a little impossible right now. She probably doesn't want to push her current users off the platform.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I love that you took the time to do the rainbow hearts. That ain't easy on mobile. I give it to you.
They were already in my favorites. I use those things. No.
All right. So why don't we bring back Alexia to take us out?
I'm good. This was a great show.
I say this usually each week.
Let's see a good picture, man.
We're going to ask about voting?
Well, thank you so much to Whisker and Paw and Thurst. It's been a fantastic show. This episode of TwitchPitch. Oh, before I get to that, don't forget to vote in the poll below. The Twitter poll is now live, so go on and vote. Don't forget to think, who would I vote for if I was VC? And this episode of TwitchPitch is sponsored by Republic and Amazon Web Services. Republic allows anyone to invest in privately owned and vetted startups. They launched to level the playing field for entrepreneurs and investors. Republic has garnered a reputation as an industry leader in the regulated crowdfunding space and continues to innovate and push forward toward their mission to democratize startup fundraising and investing. This episode is also sponsored by Amazon Web Services, or AWS. AWS is the most comprehensive and broadly adopted cloud platform, offering over 175 fully featured services from data centers globally. Millions of customers, including the world's fastest growing startups, are all using AWS to become more agile and innovate faster. Again, these are real firms pitching real investors for real cash and prizes. So stay tuned for our next episode. It is the final episode where you get to see who wins the big pot of money, 10 grand in cash. So check in next week, Tuesday at 7 p.m.
All right. A little backstage. Oh, you're on mute.
Oh, gosh. Okay. Got it. That was a great show. Good job, Lexi.
Lexi's always crushed at selection.
Man.
No,
I love
thank
it. It's
them.
just such a surprise every time.
They put in the
Like, do you
work
know
and
when you
they're
first
all-
come in? Are you like, oh yeah, like this is gonna be on the show?
Oh, I do. Like the minute I play the video, like by a minute into the video, I know whether or not you're making a season.
Ooh. Okay. Okay.
Not even the end. Like you just know already.
You just know.
Have you ever watched the first minute and changed your mind by the end?
Yes, but never for the better.
So they talk themselves out of it.
Yeah, sometimes people talk themselves out of their pitch, or it just stops making sense. Like, you know, you hear a really good problem statement, and then you hear a really good solution statement, but then there doesn't seem to be market validation, and they don't have any customers, and their competitor slide doesn't make any sense for what they're doing, and it just goes downhill from there.
Gotcha.
So, Lexi, do you see all the pitches before? I mean, I know you select them and talk to them, but do you see all the pitches, like the actual pitches before?
Yeah, I do. My inbox is where all of the video submissions come into. And so I watch every single one of them, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
She actually sees all of the submissions for investment, everything, like literally.
Start sending the HBCU ones to me, please. The ones that you know who are like have any affiliation with HBCUs, like alumni, faculty.
Oh.
You know what? Now that I think about it, we don't actually ask that question.
It's not a question that you would normally ask, but sometimes you may, like I stalk a lot of people. So I go to like LinkedIn's and I just have a lens for it. So yeah.
But sometimes people will put their school.
Yeah.
Occasionally. We see a lot of
it's a logo.
Yeah, strong Howard ties. Anybody who went to Howard definitely puts their school logo on there. They love
I think you see that across the top schools. Like if you have the Morehouse or the Spelmans, the Howards, I don't want to use the word top, but the bigger schools.
Yeah, you know. Come at your boy.
I'm highly biased. I'm a huge fan, and it's mostly because it's where I grew up. A huge Morgan State, Howard, Hampton, Norfolk State.
I've been to some parties on those campuses.
BSU, those are my favorites.
Yeah.
Uh-oh. Somebody at the bottom is like, are you guys still live right now? Yes, we are. This is the behind the scenes. We talk to each other for a few minutes after the show. Yes,
okay.
It does seem like we're in our living rooms just kind of shooting the breeze, but this is what we do every time we have a show. They're like, hold on.
They forgot to stop recording.
I love it.
Okay, team, can I ask you if I should be offended by something?
Yes.
Sure.
So I reached out to a founder today on LinkedIn who I thought was building something cool. And the founder emailed me. I put my email in my little DM. And their email to me said, I think it's interesting that you're interested in investing in BIPOC founders. That seems like such a niche market. And I didn't initially respond because I was wildly offended. And I just want to know, how would you all respond to that email?
I don't know if I would.
Yeah, I think I'd be done.
Great. Thank you. I appreciate that deeply.
It
was so offensive, like a niche market.
They were calling their own selves a niche market?
Yeah, and they were.
They identify as a woman. I don't know if they identify as anything else that is underserved founder, but yeah, it was. I was really upset by it.
What in the world? Like, first of all, it's not a niche. All right.
It's
so if
not.
you put together all of those people in the BIPOC.
It's the majority.
Just the BIPOC, like, which is a term that I've not quite, it doesn't roll off the tongue yet for me. So like, but if you put all of those people together, is more than everybody else. Just throwing it out there.
It is. If you're talking globally,
it's more.
Globally, people of the color, but because of white supremacy and colonization, we always want to talk minority. But
we're only minorities here. Like, there's a whole continent of Africa, right? Mm-hmm. There are countries like India. And if you think of all of South America, I don't understand where these people think that they're majority. I don't get it.
India and China alone is like almost gets you there.
In Europe.
Yeah.
Well, the other thing is we invest in women of all colors. So our thesis is like 80%, 90% of Americans are like in thesis.
100%. 100%. Okay, I just didn't know if I was having a little tizzy because I'm hungry and tired, but I like typed out this really ranty response and then deleted it because I'm an adult.
Well, Alexis, you know from our work with founders that when we're hungry, we make harsher value judgments, right?
Never email when you're hungry. This is not a good idea.
Guys, yeah. I don't want to document myself with my address, but there's an Uber Eats screen on my phone right now. They're 7 minutes away. Can't wait.
That's how much more time you get from me tonight. Well, I mean, to make this even more weird, guess what? It's Thursday night. So what does that mean?
Oh, no.
I want to know what it is. It's like a weird song coming on, or what happened?
You don't want to know. It's really none of our business. It's really.
So I don't know why this has turned into something that it shouldn't be, but Brian and I are going to dinner. So we've decided that Thursday nights after the show, since I've done my makeup and my hair, because most days I'm in sweatpants and a ripped t-shirt, that we're going to go out to dinner. Now, last week or 2 weeks ago, I said it was date night. It grossed everybody out.
But why?
Because,
I'm not sure, because suddenly
gross anyone out.
I think it's because, unfortunately, we're a married couple at work, and so I think it just gnarled everybody out.
It's not like you're like, oh, sex night.
I didn't exactly,
Date
but also date night,
wow.
Date night.
I don't. Maybe it's generational, but for me, I feel like in my community, the connotation of those words are very similar.
I hate you, Marlon.
What?
That was a big date. That was date night for sure. That was like our first time that we told everybody we were dating.
That was a great date.
It was. So you want to tell them just real quick before we go? So we were on. Oh God, Brian, you tell the story because
that's a clipper ship from Portugal, and it was in Miami for like they go all around the world showing off the ship. Go ahead, Candice.
Yeah, no, that was it.
Oh, yeah. So we got invited.
It's a great date night, and I'm like,
yeah. Tonight we're just going to the local.
We got invited by the Portuguese embassy to a night on the ship and to learn about it, and they have some food and wine, blah blah blah. But yeah, interestingly enough, it was middle of summer, and Candice was saying it was cooler in Miami than it was in Cincinnati, where she lived.
Oh God, yeah. It's always hot here. It's hella hot. But oh look, Share is on. What's going on?
What's up?
I mean, I feel honored right now.
oh,
I love seeing she's like, somebody needs to see my makeup. That's exactly right. Besides these people watching this right now. It's so much fun when people I look up to or really fangirl about watch the show. So, and I enjoy it. So, hey, Share team. It's exciting.
Right, so Lexi's got dinner. What's for dinner, Lexi?
Oh, they don't pay us a sponsorship, but
no free ads. Hashtag no free ads.
Yeah, it is Taco Bell, a Kentucky Yum Brand special, which, the former CMO, black man, love him so much.
That's right.
In
That's right.
Dallas Street.
He's super dope.
All right.
All right.
Hadiyah,
thank you.
Yeah,
It was so
week.
good
Thanks
spending the
for
week
coming
with
with
you.
us, hanging out. Deeply appreciate you.
Thank you so much for having me. And I guess we'll talk behind the scenes about getting some of the fellows or even our alumni on the shows for next season. So let's see. We'll talk. But
Awesome.
Enjoy date night. Enjoy delivery.
Just me alone in my apartment. No date night. Need some chalupas, you know.
Enjoy. And I will talk to everyone soon.
Good night. Bye-bye, everybody.